Hi, everyone. This is Bob Dietrich. I'm here with Frank Copolla. We're here on the next episode of the ADHD Toolbox. And this is an exciting and interesting presentation. It's about procrastination. I think, but more importantly, it's about motivation, right? How to get past procrastination. And Frank has been an ADHD coach for quite some time. Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got quite the biography.
It might take the half hour to just get to the Bible. I've been in business in some form or another. I grew up in an Italian restaurant. So from the time I was a little boy until I was about 20, my whole life was about organizing things and getting things done on time. And at the same time, I was a procrastinator. I had ADD. I didn't realize I had ADD, but I certainly would put off things because they weren't very interesting. So I went to school. I taught. I became a teacher. I taught for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And then someone suggested I get into the television commercial production business, which was movies, making movies. So I stayed in that for about 13 years. With a partner, and around 2000, I had come home one day, and my wife was on the couch, and she was reading something. I said, "What are you reading?" She said, "I'm reading this book on the statistics." I said, "What do you mean?" I met her in advertising as well. Mm-hmm. He says, "Well, you remember when we did those commercials? And they were done in Japan and they were done in Italy. I just realized with this one little rule in business statistics, I could have saved the agency like $50,000. So I said, how did you learn that? She says, I read it. And I said, at that moment, I said, there's something wrong. I said, why? I said, I'm consistently making other people really do very well in their businesses. This is before I was a coach. And, but I can't seem to really, it wasn't like we were doing badly, but I can't seem to really fit the pieces together. And I don't remember what I read. So I wind up going to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, you have ADD. I always knew you had ADD." To which I said, "Well, why didn't you let me know about it?"
Right.
So that was in 2000. And I realized that I had been in one business or another that had to do with entertainment, education, or communication. And though, as well as state-of-the-art thing, anything that had to do with state-of-the-arts. Because my production company was a special effects, computer graphics, live action company. It was like we put so many cars in space you can't imagine. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got to the point realizing I had ADD. When I discovered this, I got very upset, and it was like at the same time I was happy because I realized, oh, I'm not crazy. Then at the same time it was like, now what do I do?
Right.
So I did some research, and someone gave me a book called Driven to Distraction by Hollowell.
Yep.
And through that book, it was basically talking about ADD from a medical perspective. But I found this little paragraph that said, oh, by the way, ADD people are energetic, enthusiastic, and it went down this whole positive assets for someone with ADD. And I said, wait a minute, that's me. Mm-hmm. How can I have a deficit if I have all these other positives? Mm-hmm. I'm going to spend my time on the positives. And I better learn how to coach and work with people so I don't forget this, because that was a big thing for me, forgetting. So I went and I went to the ADD Coaching Academy. David Bework and I became friendly, right. And I got trained with him. Right. And that was in 2000, and ever since I've been coaching.
That's fantastic. And it says here that you have been involved in the arts, like you said. You included a songwriting for the feature film Bean Rose.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. So you're a very creative person, as a
yeah.
lot of people with ADHD are. And and that's overlooked. We've talked a little bit about this, and we talk a lot about this actually in this program, because it's important to know that there's a downside, but there's also a big upside in the creativity and the genius in the minds of a lot of these kids with ADHD.
Oh, without a doubt, because what I found, every single person that I've met, and I've met many, I've coached many people.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them either plays an instrument or loves music,
Right.
or loves sculpturing,
Right.
or very creative oriented. And people should really realize that creativity is one of the best assets that someone who has ADHD has. It may not be brought to the surface yet, okay, but it's there.
Right.
And I actually do a program on creativity based upon the fact that people don't necessarily think they're creative because they sit and say, well, I'm not a dancer, I'm not a musician, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. I'm an accountant. And I would say, but you're an accountant, you've got to be creative when you're doing accounting, right? Even when you're doing accounting, which is like put a fork in my eye kind of thing. But for that,
Yeah. I was an accountant for 16 years, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you were definitely creative in that game, right?
Yes, I was for a while. And you know what? When I stopped being creative, when it started being mundane and repetitive, I left. And so there you go.
Yeah, actually, that's correct. That's why people get bored.
Right. So let's talk about procrastination. You have a book called Get Into Action: 8 Simple Steps to Overcome Procrastination. We're going to talk about how you guys can get that book for free a little later here. But let's talk about how you became a procrastination coach, or maybe more of a ADD coach with an emphasis on procrastination and overcoming procrastination.
Yeah, I've kind of focused in that kind of arena. I call it actually the big top. Time management, organization, and procrastination, they kind of go together.
Mm-hmm.
But most people, I tell people with ADD, you don't have a lock on procrastination. Everybody at some time in their lives will basically put off things. The reason I spent my time on procrastination and the reason I wrote the book is I'd gone to a workshop, and the workshop leader said, instead of trying to figure out what somebody wants, why don't you ask your audience what they want? So I sent out an email to my database at that time, and I said, what's the number one issue that you're having with attention deficit disorder? And what I got back was basically like, out of 100 people that responded, 70% of them were procrastination. I keep putting off things. I can't stay focused, this kind of stuff. So I said, you know what? Let me write a book about procrastination. That's how the book came about. And I also did some research, and I discovered that the number one reason business fails is procrastination, as well as people struggle in relationships based on procrastination. So the cost, personally and financially, is more than substantial. As a matter of fact, it's incalculable. I don't know if people are aware, but 2 hours a day people will spend procrastinating at whatever they're doing, their job or whatever they're doing. And I love this quote by Wayne Gretzky. Procrastination is one of the most common and deadliest diseases, and the toll on success and happiness is heavy. So that's why I spend my time in really working with procrastination.
Now, why do you think people with ADD or ADHD are more prone to procrastinate?
Well, I can go through a couple of things with you, but basically, I think it really comes down to boredom. Um, People with attention deficit, very, very clever. And I've always said that the only thing wrong with ADD is that you don't know that you have it. And if you did know that you have it, nobody ever set you up on a system that works for you. And within that, I've always felt that people can use their procrastination if they know two different things, two things that can actually help to overcome procrastination. One is awareness, because unless you are aware of the procrastination, can't do much about it. And acceptance, that you accept with humility, I have this issue going on with me. So when you ask me, why do people with ADHD have difficulty with procrastination? I really believe it has to do with boredom. Actually, I took some notes here. Boredom, disinterest, understimulation, overstimulation, any form of fear, chaos, overwhelm, stress, anxiety. These kinds of things will basically get people to avoid doing something that they don't want to be doing. And that's the basis of procrastination. I don't want to say people who have a propensity towards procrastination usually deal with some form of fear. Either the fear that they're afraid that if they actually get it done, then they won't know what to do next. So that's one of my takeaways from dealing with procrastination with people with ADD. And the other one is, as they say, fear of success, which we all walk around with fear. I just think that as you know, someone who has fear with ADD, it's actually affecting the enzymes that are affecting your ability to be effective.
So let's talk a little bit about motivation. What are some of the motivation strategies that you use for your clients?
There is a individual who created something called the procrastination equation. His name is Pierce Steele. And there are 4 different elements that will equal procrastination. So if you were doing it, it would be expectancy times value, which is over impulsivity times delay. When you have all of those in order, it will produce motivation. So this is what I mean by this. Expectancy. Let's say that we're going to do this event. All right, we're doing what we're doing now. Right.
Got it.
Now the value, you'd have to have a strong value to move this along. And the value is you want to help other people. And you want to expand ADHD Toolbox. And you want to bring in people that can educate and illuminate to people that deal with ADHD, whether themselves directly or people that they know and love, right? So you have expectancy times value, so you need those 2. And then we're going to do this, let's say, in 2 weeks. 2 weeks go by, and for whatever the reasons are, we have to push this off for another week. And then when we start to do it again, for whatever the reasons are, it gets pushed off to another 2 weeks. As this becomes more of the delay, it triggers the impulsivity. And the impulsivity really pushes up the procrastination, because the impulsivity is going in and starting to look and explore other things other than the project that you want to be doing, because the project is going away. So when either one of these things is moved out of the picture, motivation disappears. So when I'm working with somebody, one of my strategies is to really say to them, so tell me what you want to accomplish. What I like to accomplish such and such. And the first question I ask them is why? Why do you want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it would be a good idea. That's not what I mean. Why do you really want to do this? What's important for you? What's important for your family? What's important for your life, your career, or anything like that? I need to connect what they want to do with what's something that's important to them in some way, shape, or form. Then what we'll do is we'll set up a timeline. And I always set up a timeline of basically 3 months. And I tell people every month we will have a set of goals, but every month we will check in to see how we're doing. This keeps people motivated, and also we set up goals along the way.
Okay.
You have to have a vision, you have to have a mission, and then you have to set up the goals. The minute one of these things having to do with the time gets pushed away,
Mm-hmm.
it'll immediately trigger the impulsivity, and they'll find themselves pushing off things. And that's a sign that something's not right. And when that happens, I bring them back in. And this is my key strategy around motivation. Now, there are a lot of tips and techniques about how to have people stay motivated, but ultimately, for me, this is the most effective one.
Okay, fantastic.
Is this making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're saying the impulsivity, the urge to be impulsive as an ADHD or person with ADHD, will drive you into procrastination. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so
you're looking for something that's interesting.
Right. And the way to beat it is to have goals set, have a vision set of what you want to create, and then check in and have accountability to meet those. And I think that's kind of basically what they teach, with business and personal development. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. We're all controlling our mind, but especially in ADHD, people with ADHD, really helping them stay focused, keep that vision, because they're visual people, keep that vision in their mind, and being able to take those steps.
Yeah, the vision is the whole thing behind it.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to end hunger over the next several years.
I was going to ask you about the people with ADHD who are procrastinating, right? And the difference between, say, an entrepreneur and a person who has big ideas. I mean, ADHD people have big ideas, and the difference between an entrepreneur who finishes an idea and has it come to fruition, and somebody who, and you've seen these types of people, right? They love things, they get them started, but they never finish anything, right? And the difference is one of them has their ADD managed, right? Their ADHD managed, and they've created strategies and coping skills and ways to manage it and harness that power, and the other person maybe has not so much.
Yeah, and again, what we wind up doing is that the entrepreneur, usually has the signs, symptoms, behavior of somebody with ADD. Doesn't mean that they have ADD.
Right.
So the entrepreneur has some value involved in their business. They see something that other people can't see. So, like I was saying, if somebody wanted to take on the world, I was talking about myself. I remember 15 years ago saying to myself, you know what? I have a vision that there's going to come a time that someone's going to say, I have attention deficit disorder. And somebody's going to say, really? You have that? I wish I had that. Because once you really get a handle on the value of having attention deficit disorder, it's endless. You become limitless. I completely, utterly agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, will there be issues that come up? Without a doubt. But you have to have a big vision for something like this.
Yep, and that has been kind of an arc in this program, and everybody's kind of in agreement that's absolutely what happens. Is that it is a benefit, it is a huge gift if you can harness that. And
Yeah.
and procrastination is one way to do that. Bringing this back to children with ADHD that are procrastinating, and we were talking about the entrepreneur and
Yes.
how the entrepreneur starts things and doesn't finish them. With children that have ADHD, they may start their homework and not finish it. They may start a
Right.
problem and not finish it. They may
Right.
start building a computer or things like that. Or maybe they want pets and they get pets, but then they don't take care of them.
Right.
So how would you recommend to the parents that they handle that type of situation so the children are more prone to finishing things and setting that up?
Well, first of all, I would find out what the child really loves to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they can find out what they really love to do, what you want to do is look to apply that to what your homework is about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if somebody is really good at science, and this is happening in the educational system, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not just saying, oh, you will just have to learn X, Y, and Z. You just have to learn mathematics. Now they're looking at, how do I apply this to Marvel Comics,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you just need to find out what the child is really looking to accomplish. Now, depending on the age, it's different, because
Right.
then you're into discipline, and there are just things that need to be done. I mean, my very close friend has a dojo, and he's an eighth degree black belt. He has children coming in there; they're 5 years old. The discipline of doing all these moves,
Mm-hmm.
and he said 3/4 of the kids that come in there have ADD. But the ability to really have them be disciplined to do these moves make them more prone to do their homework. Why? Because there's a set of rules attached to that. And the way that it's taught is that things like courage, and things like finishing what you need to do, and things like accountability are taught by this particular buddy of mine, right, at a very early age. So by the time these children are moving along and getting their yellow belt and their blue belt and this belt, and it's also tied into, you got to do your homework. You got to really do your homework. Again, what's the value? Okay. So I really do believe it has to do with finding something that they enjoy doing, and then being very clever to figure a way how you can apply that to whatever their assignments are.
Right. One of the things we talked about was how, you say no one ever procrastinates. And I think, now that I understand what you're saying, I think that's very much true. What would you, can you explain that a little bit to our listeners?
Sure. No one, this is a little controversial, but when you think about it, it seems to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever procrastinates, because no one ever gets up in the morning, say, today is the day I'm going to procrastinate.
Right.
They just don't you just don't operate that way. Okay. Now, it may be a question of like, I really don't want to do this today. That's not necessarily procrastination. That could be considered volition, right? But it's my belief that, let's say we got to go clean up our office or clean up a room.
Mm-hmm.
The person walks into that room, they look at what's going on, and they'll turn around and walk out the room. In that regard, it's not that they're procrastinating as much as procrastination is happening to them. Something is happening in their past that has triggered some memory that's saying to them, this is not a place for you to be, get out. Now, what I do with people is usually I'll educate them, or find somebody that can educate them on how to organize a room. Because just because you need to get educated doesn't mean that you're stupid or anything like that. It just means you need to get really trained in some way. And when I'm able to do that, and particularly I know for myself, if someone can just show me, how do I put together a room here? What would be the smartest way to put together this room? And I have professional organizers who will always tell me, you got to break the room down into quarters, and then you have to have 3 or 4 boxes, and you have to, there's a whole system involved there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about recognizing that you're not to blame here. And if it continues over time, then you have to go back to awareness and acceptance. You know what? I really need to get coached here on this because I'm not doing so well, right? And that's one of the values of having, a coach that can just show them, here's some opportunities for you, or here's some people that you can bring in and to help you during this. But it's my firm belief that nobody really procrastinates.
Got it.
On purpose.
Yep. And, it's procrastination leads to motivation once you realize that you're procrastinating, right? Having that realization that I am procrastinating, need to get motivated. My kids are procrastinated. I need to get them motivated. Having that realization, owning it, and then that can move you into motivation, which is really what we want to talk about, really
Sure.
where we want to go.
Sure.
Got it. All right. Well,
one of the downsides, I have like 5 or 6 different things, the cost of procrastination, and I'd like to talk about this just for a minute.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So when someone is in the throes of procrastination, the very first thing that something to consider is that that person now is considered untrustworthy. They can't be relied upon. So that's really a strike against your character. The other thing is that people start to lose respect for you because you made a promise and you're not delivering on your promise. And also, I believe individuals start to lose respect for themselves because they're not keeping their promises. And eventually, they don't trust themselves to do what needs to be done. It's subconscious, but it really starts to work on people.
That's a great point.
The other things is missed opportunities. Because if you're doing something that's out of what you were supposed to be doing, again, there might be missed opportunities. And I can speak to this myself. You wind up getting less things done. It diminishes the quality of your work. It takes the fun out of everything, right?
Yep.
And more importantly, it robs people of their creation, their ability to create something that's really new and exciting. We're back to creativity.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So plenty of reasons to be motivated and to notice that you're in procrastination and do whatever you can to get out of it, especially with your children and helping them to move out of procrastination. And really, it sounds like the key to moving out of procrastination, especially with children, is to learn what they like to do, right? And nurture that and help them do more of what they like to do and keep them in that.
Exactly.
And maybe even work in what they like into a math problem. If they love soccer, then work soccer into a math problem.
Exactly. And that's part of the new curriculums that are going on in the educational system. The more advanced schools are doing that. They just don't look at a child and say, oh, they have to do X, Y, and Z. They really look at the whole person.
Fantastic.
And, it's like I wrote a song, and I firmly believe that the hook of the story is you gotta love it like you never loved before. You gotta live it like you want it more and more. And you need to be you. That's what you're here for. You're more than enough. You're more than enough. And it's my belief that people have to accept that they're unique and they're more than enough.
That's great. All right. What a great note to end on. I appreciate your help. Again, if you would like to get a hold of Frank, you can reach him at frank@addcoachinggroup.com. it will be listed below. And Frank, you have a free gift for us today. What is that gift?
Well, there'll be two. One is I'll give you a complimentary coaching session. It'll last about 30 minutes, and we'll look at your unique situation, and then we'll see if there's any way that I could support you moving forward in some way. And when you contact me for that, I will give you a free copy of my book, Get Into Action, 8 Simple Steps to Overcome Procrastination. All you need to do is to put in the subject line ADHD Toolbox, and I will get back to you ASAP. And I'd love for you to contact me because I love to talk to people about this world. I'm very passionate about it.
The email again is frank@addcoachinggroup.com. It's actually listed below on this page. Below, you just copy that, paste it into your email, type in the ADHD Toolbox into the subject line, and send Frank an email, and he will schedule a appointment with you, and you can have a free session with Frank, get his book, and get some insights on how you can get past procrastination and get into motivation.
I love it.
All right. Frank, thank you so much for being on our program, and thank you all for watching another edition of the ADHD Toolbox. And we will.
And thank you, Bob, for inviting me. This has been a real thrill. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you for being a resource in our toolbox. And thank you all for watching. We will see you on the next edition of the ADHD Toolbox. Thank you, Frank.